They called him the brother leader, the king of kings, the revolutionary commander. But behind the titles lay a man shrouded in paranoia, cloaked in fear, and driven by a vision that turned into nightmare. This is not just the story of a dictator. It's the story of how one man held an entire nation hostage under the weight of his dreams, and how it all came crashing down. This is the dark legacy of Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi was born in 1942, in a desert tent near Sirte, Libya, to a poor Bedouin family. His father was a nomadic herdsman. His early life was humble, his education modest, but from a young age he was captivated by the larger forces shaping the Arab world. At the time, Libya was still grappling with the legacy of Italian colonialism and struggling to form a national identity. As a child, Gaddafi watched his country limp along under a weak monarchy, propped up by Western interests and drowning in inequality. In his teenage years, Gaddafi became inspired by Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, the powerful voice of Arab nationalism. He consumed books about socialism, Islamic thought, and anti-imperialist revolutionaries. But what set Gaddafi apart from other boys his age wasn't just curiosity. It was hunger for power, for control, for legacy. He enrolled in the military, a classic path for the ambitious. But he didn't just want to be a soldier. He wanted to reshape Libya. And in 1969, at just 27 years old, he did. While King Idris was in Turkey for medical treatment, Gaddafi led a bloodless coup. There were no grand battles, no rivers of blood, just a swift, strategic takeover of key military and communication centers. Libya awoke the next morning to a new ruler. Young, charismatic, and full of fire, Gaddafi promised to return Libya to its people. No longer would the nation's oil wealth fill foreign coffers. No longer would the monarchy decide the fate of the masses. The revolution, he said, had begun. At first he kept his promise. Foreign military bases were closed. Oil companies were nationalized. Profits poured into public housing, education, and healthcare. Literacy rates soared. Infrastructure expanded. For the first time in decades, many Libyans felt hope. Gaddafi rejected both capitalism and communism, instead promoting his Third Universal Theory, detailed in his infamous Green Book. A mix of socialism, tribal democracy, and Islamic values, the book became required reading. Schools, libraries, and public buildings carried its words. He told Libyans they didn't need elections or parliaments, only popular committees guided by his wisdom. He declared himself not a president but a guide, a revolutionary teacher, a man above politics. But power once tasted rarely stays pure. As Gaddafi's image of himself grew, so too did his paranoia. The same people he claimed to uplift were soon viewed as threats to his authority. By the late 1970s, Gaddafi began turning Libya into a state ruled by surveillance and fear. He established the Internal Security Organization, a secret police network tasked with rooting out enemies of the revolution. Neighbors were encouraged to report one another. Children learned not to speak freely at home. Public executions were broadcast on television. Students who opposed the regime were hanged in university courtyards while others were forced to watch. Disappearances became common. Families never knew if their loved ones were dead or imprisoned. Opposition parties were banned. Dissent was labeled treason. His iron grip extended beyond Libya's borders. Gaddafi viewed himself as a global revolutionary. He funded militant groups and armed rebels from Ireland to Palestine. In the 1980s, he backed terrorist organizations and earned a reputation as a rogue state sponsor. In 1986, a Berlin nightclub frequented by American soldiers was bombed. The United States blamed Libya and retaliated with airstrikes. Gaddafi's compound in Tripoli was hit. His adopted daughter was reportedly killed in the blast. But Gaddafi survived, and his rage only deepened. Then came 1988. A Boeing 747, Pan Am Flight 103, exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland. All 270 people aboard were killed. After years of investigation, Libyan intelligence was implicated in the bombing. The world recoiled. Sanctions followed. Libya became an international pariah. But inside the country, Gaddafi's grip remained firm. As sanctions strangled the economy, food prices soared, unemployment rose, and basic services crumbled. The oil wealth that once lifted the nation was now hoarded by a corrupt elite and squandered on Gaddafi's ambitions. Yet Gaddafi remained untouchable. He adopted bizarre symbols of power: gold-framed sunglasses, elaborate robes, all-female bodyguards. He held summits in massive tents. He gave rambling speeches that stretched for hours. He declared himself King of Kings of Africa in 2008, crowning himself in a surreal ceremony attended by tribal leaders. He was no longer a revolutionary. He was a king cloaked in delusion. And still, Libyans lived in silence, because to speak was to disappear. For 42 years, Gaddafi ruled with a strange mixture of charm and cruelty. He could be laughing one moment and ordering executions the next. He told the world Libya was a model of direct democracy, but no one could vote him out. He told the people they were free, but only his voice echoed. Then came 2011. Tunisia had fallen. Egypt followed. The Arab Spring was sweeping the region, and its winds reached Libya. Protests broke out. Peaceful at first. Ordinary citizens demanded jobs, dignity, and freedom. But Gaddafi didn't listen. He threatened to hunt down protesters like rats. His forces opened fire on crowds. Tanks rolled into cities. Helicopters shot into the streets. Hundreds were killed in days. But this time, the people didn't back down. Libya erupted into civil war. Rebel forces seized towns. The world watched in horror. NATO intervened. Airstrikes pounded Gaddafi's military bases. Rebel forces advanced. City after city fell. Still, Gaddafi refused to flee. "I will die a martyr," he said on state TV. By October, Gaddafi had retreated to Sirte, his hometown, now a battlefield. His final days were spent hiding in buildings, moving in convoys, and trying to escape the noose tightening around him. On October 20, 2011, NATO bombed his convoy. Gaddafi escaped on foot, hiding in a storm drain. But the rebels found him. Bloodied, disoriented, begging for mercy. Footage spread quickly, him being dragged, mocked, beaten. Moments later he was dead. Shot. Silenced. The man who ruled Libya for 42 years died in the dirt. Not as a martyr, but as a warning. His death left a void. Libya plunged deeper into chaos. The war didn't end with his fall. It only changed form. To this day, the scars of Gaddafi's rule remain. In the shattered homes. In the fractured politics. In the whispered memories of fear. Muammar Gaddafi was a man of contradictions. A desert-born dreamer who wanted glory. A revolutionary who became a tyrant. A visionary who drifted into madness. His story is not just about one man. It's about what happens when power is unchecked, when truth is silenced, when fear becomes law. Let his life be a mirror, not of admiration, but of warning. Because even the strongest grip on power eventually slips. If Gaddafi's story moved you, disturbed you, or made you think, share your thoughts in the comments below. What's your take on his rule? Don't forget to like this video if you found it eye-opening, and subscribe to Dark Days Donkir Dagan for more deep, emotional journeys through history. And if you want to explore more about how dictatorships impact lives around the world, stay tuned for our next episode.